Now, joining me now is Liberal MP Kevin Andrews. You were once, thank you for joining me.
Yes.
You were once the immigration minister 11 years ago. You warned that Somali, this man was Somali, and Sudanese were struggling to fit in, and you turned off the tap. For that, you were demonised as a racist by a Labor Premier, Anna Burke, the Age newspaper, Muslim community groups, and you're absolutely demonised. You did turn off the tap to some extent. What did we do wrong with our immigration program and a refugee program that we nevertheless end up with these results?
Immigration is not just about a person landing in Australia, Andrew. It's about the whole settlement process. And if individuals are going to make the most of Australia, then we have to ensure that they settle well into this country. And the challenge that I faced was that we were bringing in 70% of that program from Africa, and yet we knew from feedback from the frontline people on the streets, from police, from other workers, that they certainly weren't settling in, or a significant number weren't settling. So as you said, I cut the numbers so that it only meant those that were already in the pipeline would come in.
But you were demonised so much for that. And I just wonder how it is that, as that sort of stifling of debate led to the position that we still have imported, despite your efforts, a huge, a troublesome minority of people who are either members of criminal gangs, street gangs, or in the case of refugees, 5 refugees who've actually committed a terrorist act on these shores. Something surely has gone wrong.
That's true, Andrew. We haven't been prepared to actually stand up and say, these are the values which we subscribe to, and if you're coming to this country, then we expect that you will share those values, that you will seek to be part of the great diasporas of people from around the world who have taken up these values. If you look at this tragedy just recently in Melbourne, it's essentially a tragic tale of 2 migrants. You've got, the gentleman who was killed came here in, I think, 1963, made the most of his life, built a business, employed people, gave back and added to the culture of this country, and the person who's killed him with a murderous ideology who just wants to destroy our culture. And that's the difference. There are some migrants who have, most migrants who have come here to do the best they can for themselves and their families. Well, they shouldn't be coloured by those who come here who have no intention whatsoever of fitting into our culture.
That's correct, but it's a question of odds, whether there are enough of the people that are really making go of it to make us think taking a risk with the few that don't is worth it. And I just wonder, I don't know that those odds count anymore. Our refugee program has put too many of us in danger. Is that true or not?
Well, we should be taking refugees from people who are willing and have shown through past experiences of people from those countries that they'll settle in. I have a Quran community in my electorate. Most peaceful, hard-working people that you could come across.
But is it true that the refugee program has, on balance, brought in more danger than is acceptable?
It's certainly brought in a lot of danger, and we've seen it repeated again and again. These sort of incidents shouldn't happen, and we have to find a way of saying that people who simply have a murderous intent not to be part of our culture and to try and undermine it, as has occurred on too many occasions, should not be part of Australia. And there are some things that we could do beyond what we're doing now. For example, if a person has not gained their citizenship and they're on some sort of watch list, or there's a question mark over them by ASIO or other authorities, well then prima facie they've failed the character test.
So all 400 that are on ASIO's watch list, if they're not Australian citizens, should be expelled?
I'm saying they've prima facie failed the character test. We wouldn't have let them in if we'd known that about them in the first place. And the presumption should be that they should be deported.
See, one of the difficulties, of course, that in this case the guy was 5 years old or so when he came here. You can't screen the kids. That's my problem. When you bring in a culture, you can't guarantee which people will react one way or the other. I want to show you the latest stats for humanitarian visas that are issued by the federal government. That's in the year to last June. Now, there's nearly 20,000 that we let in 1 year, almost all from Muslim countries, Iraq, Syria and others. More than 300 were given to South Sudanese, 162 to Somalians. This is on top of the normal immigration program, but I don't expect many more above that. Now, can you explain to me why we would bring in hundreds of people from Sudan and Somalia when we are having these troubles right now with those communities?
Well, there's somewhere between 10 and 20 million refugees in the world, Andrew. So there's a huge choice of people that we could make. As I did, we cut back the numbers coming from Africa at that stage and tried to increase the numbers coming from the Thai-Burma border. People have been 2-3 generations in UN camps there and have proven to be very hard-working refugees who have come to Australia and fitted in. So if we've got a choice of so many, let's choose people who are more likely to accept our culture, our way of life and want to contribute to it, not tear it down.
So Christians or from Christian lands?
Yes, and it's not about, in my view, it's not about belief, it's about behaviour. There are many fine, upstanding Muslim people, for example, in Australia who are appalled by what's gone on. So if we judge people by their conduct and their behaviour, then it's not a question of whatever they may believe. You know, the basis of our Western civilisation is we will punish people for bad behaviour, for inappropriate conduct, and we can apply that same test to migrants now as we've applied to other things in the past.
Can I just ask you, finally, the latest news polls out? The government slipped behind again. You're now 45 to 55 after preferences. Labor's 55. That's obviously catastrophic. Do you now regret, you voted to remove Malcolm Turnbull, do you now regret that?
No, I don't, Andrew. The reality is that Mr Turnbull had lost the support of the party room, had lost the support of the broader constituency, our base, if you like, and we were going backwards under Mr Turnbull. And, you know, we made a decision about that. I'm fully supportive of Scott Morrison and the team there. We've got to get together now and show that we offer a better alternative than Bill Shorten to the people of Australia at the next election.
Except, of course, Malcolm Turnbull is busy trying to wreck it. You saw his appearance on Q&A last Thursday's refusal campaign for you in his seat, the various leaks, etc. you're seeing as well, which may or may not come from him. That's not going to happen. Do you think, though, it is better to lose without Malcolm Turnbull trying to drag the party to the left than it is, you know, it would have been to win and suffer what he was going to do?
Well, Mr Turnbull's left the parliament and we've got to get on with it. The people who are there, who are fighting the battle, will continue to fight the battle, and I believe that there is a sense of unity and purpose amongst all my colleagues to fight that battle, take it up to Bill Shorten. The real battle is not within the party itself. The real battle is with Labor, because if we are not returned as government at the next election, Bill Shorten will be Prime Minister, we'll have a Labor government, and that's not going to be good for Australia.
Kevin Andrews, thank you so much indeed
Pleasure,
for your
Andrew.
time.